Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the podcast you come to when you're finally ready to take fantasy hockey seriously. My name is Nibbelink. I'm the creator of Apples and Ginos, originator of the Zero-G draft strategy. In this show, I'm going to break down the most puzzling players league-wide as submitted by the Apples and Ginos Discord server. Let's get it. Welcome on in, everyone. Good to be back in the saddle with some puzzling players. I know there are many puzzling players, especially at this time of year. Apologies in advance for A, my voice, and B, any muting of myself that I have to do so I can cough relentlessly. I have been some form of sick for well over 2 weeks at this point, so that's going swimmingly. And I hope your holidays are going great as well. We got some people in the comments. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for being here. And the first question, Ahoy Nate from @Rear Admiral. Meow meow. Very aptly named. Ahoy Nate, my goalies are not ship-shaped these days. Very nautical themed. Nice. Which of these #Zero-G goalies has the best short-term and long-term upside? Ingram, UPL, Allen, Grubauer, or Dobish? That's a great question. We did just get some news today about Alex Lyon, that he's going to be out. And so, I mean, it kind of depends, A, how long that goes on. UPL had been playing pretty well. So basically what I'm getting at is I'm leaning UPL's way. However, if Lyon is only out for like a few days, then they could get back into this three-headed goalie monster, which is obviously terrible. So it's definitely best short term, I'd say, for UPL, because you assume that Lyon is going to miss a little bit of time at the very least. Then if Lyon is coming back, honestly, it's a tough call. I don't really like any of them. I think Ingram actually has some potential, but they just traded for Jari, so Jari's going to get every opportunity there in Edmonton, in my mind. Allen, I feel like, could outplay Markstrom and at least be a 50-50 guy there. Grubauer, I don't think, is in danger of overtaking Decord, but has been playing well. And Dobish, it seems like they've got their own three-headed monster going there right now. 6:45 left in the second, and Montembeau's first start back, and he's blanking the Panthers, so I'm sure everybody saw that one coming. All right. Yeah, UPL is my answer at the moment, but it is definitely a wild landscape, particularly with those goaltenders you've mentioned, which I'm sure is why they're available. Blake's in here. Can someone tell me what the hell Jack Hughes is doing out there? I'm assuming you mean what is Jack Hughes doing on the spreadsheet, or do you mean what is he doing in the game, which is a whole lot of nothing to this point? Either way, I think we'll get into that. Where would you put Allmark in that list? Just dropped in my league, assuming he comes back from personal reasons. If he comes back, I'm pretty happy to roster Allmark. I think he'll get volume, big contracts. Ottawa, I think, is playing pretty well under the hood and a good defensive environment. So, yeah, I like Allmark fine, assuming he comes back and is at full strength for the remainder of the season. At Steve Lorini, is Eberle becoming a season hold? Pretty close in a lot of leagues, I would say. Michael asks, hey Nate, can you rank these forwards? I'm assuming that means rest of season in a Cats league. Goals, assists, shots on goal, hits, power play points. Schmaltz, Terry, Ehlers, Stamkos, Verhaeghe. Right now I'd still go Terry tops. I think he's going to be the most consistent. It would be between Verhaeghe and Schmaltz for second place there for me. Schmaltz is probably going to be more consistent rest of season, but Verhaeghe has higher upside. Really just depends where he fits into the lineup once Tkachuk is back. I am still pretty worried that Tkachuk coming back means Verhaeghe never gets power play 1 again. Then Stamkos, then Ehlers. Matthew says, trade Draisaitl for Brady Tkachuk and Dahlin. Thoughts, goals, assists, points, power play points, shorthanded points, plus, minus, hits, shots, blocks, and then goalie cats. Assuming you can make up the points in other spots, it's probably fine. Obviously, I like getting Tkachuk and Dahlin in a Bangers Cats. But Draisaitl is Draisaitl. So if you're doing really well already in goals, assists, points, then that's probably fine. I mean, Dahlin in and of himself might be a big enough upgrade over the defenseman you dropped to replace him that it could be a wash. I think it's reasonable. I don't think it's a home run necessarily, but I could see it depending on what cats you needed. Lucio, ranked the follow W's +4. I'm very confused, but what's going on here? I think you mean W's are worth 4. So wins are worth 4, saves are worth 0.6, shutouts are 0.6, losses are -2. Goals against are also -2. So saves are actually pretty strongly weighted relative to goals against. So lots of saves are fine. Doesn't have to be on a great team. Okay. Vladar, Allmark, Bussy, and Lyon. Well, Lyon is injured. Allmark is away from the team. Bussy, I don't have a ton of confidence in, although Anderson's stinking up the joint again against Pittsburgh right now. It's 5-1 now for Pittsburgh. Let's see, is Brian Russ doing more good stuff? Only 2 points. Too bad. Honestly, I want to say Bussy. Obviously, Kachekov being out for the rest of the season makes him a lot more valuable. The home run swing is Bussy. Vladar, I think, is in a pretty good spot and pretty locked in at the moment. So that's where I've got it at the moment. All right. We'll do one more and then I'll get into the list here. Once again, Rear Admiral, meow meow. Thanks, Nate. One more for you. Would give up on Dougie Hamilton and 12-team Cats. D-men are scarce. Shots are coming up, but my patience is very thin. I wouldn't, probably. Honestly, his underlying stuff looks pretty good. I think the Devils are a bit of a combination of gripping their sticks too hard and being unlucky and also just not playing their best. So it's hard to get out of those funks, but I fully expect that they will, and that should mean better things ahead for Dougie Hamilton. He's on a nearly historic run in terms of how inefficient he's been, and we have a whole career of him and a whole career of him in New Jersey where he's been pretty efficient in even strength minutes. So yeah, I don't think there's much out there on the waiver wire in a 12-team Cats that could entice me to drop Dougie Hamilton still. All right. So we can get into the list here for the day. First cough of the pod at the 8.5-minute mark. Not too bad. So the number one player, I guess, requested by the Apples and Ginos Discord server today was actually just the Anaheim Ducks in general. So I kind of just put in all the top fantasy relevant guys, basically like the top 6, and I figured we'd kind of go from there, and I threw in Jackson Combe as well, who's also separately requested. So I figured we could kind of just start from there and see where that takes us. Right off the top, Cutter Gauthier has a monstrous game. 9 shots, 16 shot attempts against San Jose, goal and an assist. It's against San Jose, so obviously that's the team that you can do that kind of thing against. I don't want to read too much into having a great game against one of the worst defensive teams in the league. And at the same time, not many players are capable of having that kind of game, and it's far from the first time that Cutter Gauthier's done that this year. Last 5 games, he's first in shots per 60, 7th in individual expected goals for per 60. On the season, he's 2nd in shots per 60, 44th individual expected goals for per 60 on a 40-goal, 80-point pace. His numbers don't look that unsustainable to me. He's getting a little bit less ice time now, which is actually my largest concern with Cutter Gauthier at the moment, is just that he won't get 18 plus minutes a night for the rest of the season. And he might live closer to this 16:45 to like 17:15 average time on ice mark for the rest of the season. I think that's a real possibility, and that possibility has me just a little bit scared off of just saying that, yeah, he's a 40-goal, 80-point guy rest of season. But if you think of him as like a 40-goal, 70-point guy rest of season, I don't think you'll be disappointed, and I think he has potential to do even better than that with more deployment, which is always possible. Other players getting injured and kind of forcing him to be power play one and to get 18-plus minutes. I think actually Cutter Gauthier has been remarkably consistent, at least in the underlyings throughout the course of the season. The point production has fallen off a little bit, but we kind of knew that was going to happen. It was just too red hot at the beginning. But I think he's still terrific, and I think, I'd be very happy to continue with Cutter Gauthier on my team, and I wouldn't be trading him away as some kind of sell high. Troy Terry has a couple of goals and an assist in the game last night while playing on a line with Ryan Poehling and Nikita Nesterenko, for whatever that's worth. Ends up now with 4 points since last 5, so kind of saves himself there, I guess. But still 126 shots per 60, 33rd individual expected goals for per 60, 73rd on ice expected goals for per 60 over the last 5. And it all looks pretty sustainable. 65% IPP is actually low for Terry relative to his career. 12.5% shooting percentage, low for Terry relative to his career. The 13.7% on ice shooting percentage is high. But even if you kind of make that all level out, I think you're looking at a guy who should be on a 30-goal, 80-point pace right now, given the 18 and, say, three-quarters minutes that he's been skating on average so far for the season. Again, this is a little bit of a new version of the Ducks that we're seeing, where the lines are, like the top 3 lines are kind of all getting even ice time. And that's really leveling out the average time on ice for a lot of these higher end forwards there. And so if that's going to continue, then yeah, I'm going to be a little bit more cautious in projecting anybody, but Troy Terry in this case, moving forward. So that's something you have to take into account. Mikael Granlund has been really hot and did a bunch of that damage when, Leo Carlsson missed a game there, was dealing with something. So he's kind of come into a role and come out of a role, which is kind of exactly what you have Mikael Granlund there to do, a guy who can step up and do something for you. But in the last game, he was playing on the Leo Carlsson line alongside Chris Kreider on the wings there. 58th shots per 60, 66th on ice expected goals for per 60, doing all that stuff, getting power play time. 27 goal, 59-point pace on the season, and none of it looks terribly unsustainable to me there. So, yeah, I'm happy to have Mikael Granlund. I do think he might be, him and Beckett Seneke are probably the 2 guys that I think are the most at risk to have their roles diminished and to be put down to more of a true third line if and when that happens on the season. I think those 2 guys are the guys that are probably the most at risk to have it happen to them. And so, yeah, that's just something that's always going to be in the back of my mind with Granlund. So I'm not viewing him as like a rest of season hold, but like 55-point player with upside for more, especially in some hot stretches where he gets on like a line 1, power play 1. Absolutely. Leo Carlsson has been a little banged up, and I think that's most of it. He did get 20 minutes in the last game. He's had 3 shots in each of the last 2 games. I kind of feel like at the end of it all, he should be okay once he's able to put behind him whatever he's dealing with. It seems like if they're playing him 20 minutes in that game last night, that he's feeling a little better. And I'd expect that the underlying stuff will kind of come up alongside that moving forward. I honestly don't think his underlyings are crazy out of whack. It's really just, are they going to play him 20 minutes a night as they were at the beginning of the season? They did do that last night. It was a close game that they're trying to come back in, so obviously that has a factor there. But if you told me he finished the season with 37 goals and 91 points, or I guess he's missed a game, so it won't be exactly those numbers, but that was the pace, I wouldn't be shocked. Quite honestly, I think he's tremendous, and he's taken a step this year into stardom. Yeah, I think health is the biggest concern there for me, and then also the deployment. If they just ease off him a little bit moving forward, obviously that's going to take some off the top of his fantasy potential. Chris Kreider has kind of gone downhill in the last little bit. He had really good underlying stats and wasn't producing. Now he has bad underlying stats, still not producing. I mean, he's still on a 30-goal, 52-point pace, which actually I think is probably pretty close to what I had him projected for at the beginning of the season. So if you just add it all up, I had him for a 33-goal, 53-point pace at the beginning of the season. So he's kind of right about where I had him. And if you add it all up, it probably looks pretty similar to what you'd expect. Yeah, the recent stretch where the underlying numbers have ticked down is of concern, but it's not a long enough stretch yet that I'm super concerned. He's got the most average time on ice out of all these forwards, for whatever that's worth. I don't think it's worth that much, to be quite honest with you. He also kills penalties, so that's a piece of it. Yeah, I still would be hanging on to Chris Kreider personally, but he's definitely in the range where I'm starting to watch and see if this starts to deteriorate further, either in terms of his power play usage and or his top six usage, basically. Back at Seneca, underlying stats have kind of gone downhill. The on-ice stuff still looks pretty decent. Was playing on that McTavish-Gauthier line in the last game, which is where he's done most of his damage throughout the course of the season. 23 goals, 61-point pace on the season. 76% IPP is really high, and that's the thing that I would expect to come down. Also, he's a rookie, and rookies are just unpredictable. I say it a lot of times, but I really do mean it. It wouldn't be too shocking for him to just kind of have a bit of a fade off in the second half here and be the guy who kind of gets demoted down to the third line and is more of even like a 30-point pace scorer the rest of the season. That's definitely within the range of outcomes for Seneca. And so I want to be cognizant of that, but also obviously we've seen the talent. Like, the talent is real. I do expect, like, for his career, I do expect him to be a top six talent and to be a guy who can score 60 plus points in a season. I just don't know if he's going to maintain that for the rest of this season in particular. Mason McTavish, 2 goals, 4 points in his last 5, 13th in shots per 60, 22nd individual expected goals, 4 per 60, 71st on-ice expected goals, 4 per 60 in the last 5 games. 19 goal, 50-point pace on the season. That's been steadily ticking up and up. I like the increase there from McTavish. I hope he sticks around alongside Gauthier in terms of the even strength deployment. I don't know that the power play is necessarily going to be there for any extended time with McTavish, which is my biggest hang up with him personally, is I'm not convinced that he's viewed as a power play one weapon by Joel Quenneville. And so that'll obviously just cap his upside for fantasy. So watch for that. If he gets power play one, I think I could get pretty excited about him as a 65 to 70 point pace guy moving forward. But that's something that he will need to really unlock, something more noteworthy for fantasy purposes. Jackson Lacombe, 3 assists, no goals in his last 5, over 23 minutes average time on ice, 118th shots per 60, 83rd individual, expected goals 4 per 60, 26th on ice, expected goals 4 per 60. He's on a 13-goal, 48-point pace on the season. At the beginning of this season, I had him for 12 goals and 52 points, so it's honestly not that far off the pace that I had him projected for at the beginning of the year. His ice time is a little bit down here in the last little bit. He had been skating more than 25 minutes a night on average previously, and now it's ticked down a little bit. But 40% IPP, 10.8% on ice shooting percentage. I think both of those numbers could even increase a little bit, and you could get him over 50 points here. Won't be too shocking. I think that, Lacombe might still have more to give here moving forward in terms of the point pace. But even if he doesn't, he's well within your rosterable parameters for your league. and he's been pretty good in terms of generating chances. Obviously, just an all-around defenseman. He's been tremendous for the last year plus at this point. Love watching Jackson Lacombe. I feel like he's made me a better beer league defender just watching Jackson Lacombe play and how he shuts down plays in the neutral zone. Love watching Jackson Lacombe play. So, big favorite of mine personally for sure. But yeah, I think you should expect what you've gotten so far in terms of the 13 goal, 48 point pace that he's on, with upside for more over there. All right, we went through Anaheim. Let's get back to the comments. I'm sure we've got a ton, so let's get back into that. Oh my goodness, we got a ton for sure. Let's get into here. Salutations, Fantasy Wizard. May you please rank the following: goals are worth 6.5, assists worth 4.5, power play goals, I'm assuming, or points are worth 1, shorthanded points worth 1, shots on goal 0.7, hits 0.7, blocks 1. Pretty solid peripheral weight there, especially for blocks. Troy Terry, Patrick Kane, Josh Norris, Jared McCann, Lindholm. I am taking Troy Terry number 1. I am taking Patrick Kane number 2. I'm taking Josh Norris number 3. I'm taking Jared McCann number 4. I'm taking Elias Lindholm number 5. I think McCann has more upside, especially given your format. Lindholm doesn't do much of anything except get some assists. The power play points aren't quite enough to entice me more Lindholm's way than McCann's. Ahoy from Nightbane 420. Got a multi-part question for you, which I may also ask the Trade Talk boys for the other takes on it. Currently lined up for the bye, so still building for week 23 and winging it in the final week. Pondering the idea of trading away Hints as he plays on busy days. Additionally, have Robo. Partially bought into Dallas Success already. Might see if I can score Landeskog or Nelson for the off days. Only worry is, would it be too bought in on Avs? Already have Natchez, Taves, Blackwood, and Wedgwood. Could change it up, go other defensemen like Carlson or Falk. Potentially pull off both and do Byfield Hints. This is quite the scenario you're building for yourself. Also pondering the idea of waiting to do further trades after the Olympic break. Points are Windsor for, I think it got cut off there. I don't think I have your points system. Overall, I guess I would say I don't think you need to. I think Natchez and Taves being different positions means I'm not too worried about it. You are definitely buying way more into Avs success if you add another Avs player. Like, you're already pretty indebted to the Avs being good during those playoff days, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, if you're going to pick a team to be indebted to for your fantasy success, the Avs seem like a pretty good place to park your bets. If you are going to go for one, I think I would still go for Landeskog. He's still the captain. I feel like there's maybe a bit more organizational weight behind him than a guy like Nelson, who's currently on power play 1. I feel more confident in Landeskog's deployment than Nelson's, I guess is just what I'll say. So if you are going to do it, I would lean towards Landeskog. I don't think I would trade Hints 1-for-1. I'm not sure that that's exactly what you're saying here, but I don't think I would necessarily do Hints 1-for-1 for Landeskog. But something along those lines, I could maybe a 2-for-2 or something like that. Maybe also target some of these defensemen. Something like that. Not a bad idea overall. Reese's Pieces tuning in kind of late. What are your thoughts on Uyghur's rest of season point pace? We could throw Uyghur in the sheet and have a look. He was requested. He does have 4 points in the last 5, 21 minutes average time on ice, 19th shots per 60, 43rd individual expected goals for per 60, 64th on ice expected goals for per 60, 25-point pace on the season. The on-ice shooting percentage at 6.4% is pretty comically low. I think that should climb by almost half at least. You would expect it to be closer to 10%, if not quite getting there, even on the Flames. So that should put him at 37-ish points. Yeah, I think aim for 35 points rest of season. He's still shooting a ton. He's playing a ton. Obviously, you have the possibility of Anderson leaving. You have the possibility of more power play time for him rest of season. I'm not banking on that. But even without it, I think 35-point pace rest of season is within the realm of possibility, if not probable. So yeah, I think if I had to set an over/under on Uyghur's point pace rest of season, it might be in the low 30s, and I might take the over based on the underlyings being actually pretty good for him relative to the team context. I think he can be in that 35-point range. LMAO, the top players on the list are all Ducks. I'm sure they'll get again right. Yeah, it was a fun topic to kind of break down the team, I think. Sports and stocks. Am I crazy to be worried about Pasternak? Bruins look so anemic. I don't think it's crazy. I think Pasternak is Pasternak and he should be fine. He has been a little banged up, which has me a little bit more worried. But yeah, I don't want to be beholden to the Bruins because I do think they've been kind of playing over their skis a bit throughout the course of this season so far. So yeah, I don't know if worried is the right word for Pasternak, but I also don't know that you should necessarily expect him to be as good as he has been. With a chance, have Nikish Doughty, Vladar, Gibson on my waivers, trying to deal Wool/Demko/Riley in a 2-for-1, struggling to identify a good tier. Are Barzal, Konechny, Lehkonen aiming too high? I mean, I don't think so. I would be happy. I would start with Konechny, then go to Barzal probably, and then go to Lehkonen. Obviously, Lehkonen not on line 1 or power play 1 at the moment is problematic for his fantasy value. But yeah, I think you're trying to do the right things, trying to get off those guys and open yourself up to some decent players on your waiver wire. Marchment versus Voronkov, who's performing under the hood? That's a good question. We can definitely take a quick look-see at those two guys. Marchment and Voronkov. Marchment's got points in the last little bit, but Voronkov has better underlying numbers. Yeah, Marchment's been getting more run now. How much of that was before he got to Columbus is a valid question. He has played, what do we got here? That was right before the deadline. So most of this is Columbus, okay. And he's been playing good minutes there. The shots have not necessarily been there, as evidenced by the 200th shots per 60 rank. The individual expected goals for is not too bad. Yeah, not too bad, basically. But not exciting underlying stuff for him. Voronkov's underlying stuff actually looks pretty good, but the ice time has definitely not been there. Last game was on a line with Miles Wood and Cole Sillinger, which is pretty rough. Was on top power play, so is Mason Marchment. So basically, Voronkov's underlyings look way better. 26 shots per 60, 14th individual. Expected goals for per 60, 16th on ice. Expected goals for per 60. But he's playing with much worse line mates. They're trying out the new toy, I guess, in Mason Marchment. It might stay that way. I think if I had to take one right now, I would take Marchment just for the deployment, because I don't think the players are all that different. But Voronkov's underlying numbers do look better at the moment, and so if the deployment switched, I would instantly go to Voronkov. Just the deployment gap is pretty huge here, over 4 minutes average time on ice difference between the two recently. So, yeah, I think I would take Marchment there, even though the underlyings are really good for Voronkov. It's just kind of below the Mendoza line in terms of how much ice time he's getting. I like how it's just the Anaheim Ducks. Hey Nate, struggling to decide what to do with my surplus. Currently in first place, Bouchard, Quinn Hughes, Fox, Sanderson, Carlson, Harley, Radish. That is a pretty solid blue line. Goals are 3, assists 2, power play points 1, shots on goal 0.3, hits 0.2, blocks 0.6. Trades are not materializing very well. Which two to try to trade and or drop down the road? 8-team head-to-head league, by the way. Carlson is definitely trending towards a drop as soon as he goes cold. Yeah, if he's just going to be power play 2 and less minutes overall, Jacob Chikrin is kind of becoming the dude there, which it really seems like he is for the last 10 games, I feel like at this point. Yeah, I think Carlson is a pretty easy first drop from that group for me. I think Radish might stick around as a guy to hang on to. I actually think Harley's underlying stuff looks pretty promising. His ice time obviously good. So I'm trying to hang on to Harley as kind of like a buy low guy. In an 8-team league, maybe you don't have to, because you don't have to roster these kind of secondary defensemen on their own teams, guys who aren't getting power play 1 at this exact moment in time. Yeah, I don't feel like I want to drop Bouchard, Hughes, Fox, Sanderson. Obviously, Radish killing it right now. So Carlson is the obvious first drop. Harley would be the next drop, probably at the moment. Fox is obviously not playing currently, but will be back. So that'll make your decisions harder at that point. Fox also has better playoff schedule, if my memory serves. The Rangers have better playoff schedule than just about everybody. So that'll also be helpful for you since you're in first place. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. In 8-team league, you're just trying to take the top guy who's performing right now. If Harley gets power play 1, you could probably add him back. I don't think anybody's adding him currently if you dropped him, unless they're really, really hurting defense. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Where did Fantilli and Zuccarello shake out in that previous set of players I sent? Bangers, Cats, Terry, Schmaltz, Ehlers for Haggy, Stamkos. Both are below. Fantilli's probably in the same tier as Ehlers. Zuccarello, maybe below, maybe right below, maybe right there. Pretty close. Any signs of sustainability behind Eli Tolvanen's recent rush? Well, Tolvanen did get 2 empty netters the other day, so that's definitely helping. But 19.5 minutes average time on ice, that'll play in a lot of formats. 67th in shots per 60, but 194th in individual expected goals for per 60. He's a bit more of a chucker than a net front guy for sure. On the season, his numbers are definitely not that good, so it is kind of a hot stretch, but he is also playing up the lineup and playing top power play, getting more minutes with better players, which is something he's not had in the past. So yeah, I think it's sustainable as long as he gets this deployment, but when the deployment goes away, I don't think it's going to be sustainable. I mean, by sustainable, I don't mean 8 points in every 5 games. I don't think that's sustainable. I think everybody understands that, but I mean, can he be a very fantasy relevant player as long as he's getting these kind of minutes and this kind of deployment? Yes, I very much believe he can. I think he has often had pretty good underlying stats. He's been a little inconsistent, which is the main concern with him, I would say. But I think that they kind of don't have anybody else, and so he's going to get a lot of minutes at the moment. Redman7777. When healthy, do you prefer Nazar or Monahan? Plus minus is a cat. I mean, neither has been truly inspiring on the season. Monahan's underlying numbers, is on ice stuff looks pretty good the last little bit. I think he did get back on the power play I saw. I just want to confirm that in the last game. Oh no, it was still Marchment and Voronkov, that's right. I think it's... Oh yeah, because he missed this game. That's right. Anyway, I think I'm going Nazar. I think Monahan might be a little bit compromised just in terms of what he's able to do physically. The on-ice stuff still looks pretty good, but a lot of that might be more due to the players around him at this point than to his own play. So yeah, I think I'm going Nazar when healthy. Is Hyman going to be point per game all season long? No. Did cut off for league points. You're right, creating a situation. Would be looking to trade hints for players' picks. Probably have to take a loss on the trade to get it go through. It's possible. How do Byfield and Duchesne look under the hood? We can take a quick look there. Byfield, Duchesne. Obviously not a ton of points. Byfield a little bit more as of late. 20 minutes a night for Byfield. 73rd in shots per 60. He has been shooting more, but it's been from distance. The scoring chances less, and the individual expected goals for per 60 even less than that. On ice, still pretty bad. 263rd in on ice expected goals for per 60, whereas Duchesne's 64th in on ice expected goals for per 60. I feel like Duchesne is probably going to get things going pretty soon. It could be just a season that doesn't work out for him too well, but that's where I still feel like there's stuff there that's working that hasn't quite come out in the wash yet. That being said, if he's going to play with Jamie Benn and Justin Hurricane, I thought I knew how to say this name. Hurricane. This is terrible. Now I'm going to have to Google it. I can't be. I thought I knew how to say this name. Justin. I was positive that I knew how to say this man's name, and now I have to Google it because Ritzkovian. That's right. What was I saying? Ritzkovian. Sorry for the tangent there, but I had to get that right for myself. Justin Ritzkovian, definitely not ideal even strength partners. Definitely not going to get power play 1 this year, assuming health for the big 4 forwards that have been there all year long and how well that's been going. So that is a concern for Duchesne. That being said, I think he can be a 60-point guy in terms of pace rest of season if he gets on just a halfway decent even strength line and finds some chemistry there. I just don't know how likely that is. So yeah, there's some up in the air there. At the moment, I would take Byfield over him for the average time on ice and the fact that he's finally starting to shoot the puck a bit, which is a sign that we all wanted to see for a long time. And it's kind of the best sign that we have for either of them at the moment. What content do you plan on making for the fantasy playoffs? Yeah, we usually end up doing a show about playoff schedules. That'll probably happen during the Olympic break because that's the most logical time to do it. So you can look forward to some of that. For patrons, we've already put out the schedule tool, which has all those schedules and everything. People can see it. Can we add Rasmus Anderson into the sheet? We absolutely can add Rasmus Anderson. 3 assists the last 5, 24.5 minutes average time on ice. 106 shots per 60, 99 individual expected goals for per 60, 103 on ice expected goals for per 60. That's worse than the numbers that we were talking about for Uyghur. For those keeping track at home, even though Anderson's been on power play 1. It might just be that Anderson's starting to fall off a little bit from the hot start, but it wouldn't be surprising if he heated back up a little bit. 15-goal, 53-point pace. It's probably a bit hot for him on this team, so it wouldn't be too shocking. But that being said, 24.5 minutes average time on ice, power play 1. It's not like you're dropping him, but might be a bit of a sell high maybe. Who do you prefer in a points league with goals worth 4, assists worth 3, power play points worth 1, shots 0.3, hits 0.3, blocks 0.5, Landeskog or Patty Kane? So decent peripheral weights, but not extreme. Patty Kane is more bankable, at least in terms of when he's on the ice, what he's doing. I would take Landeskog at this exact moment in time, but if you're just saying rest of season, who's more bankable, it'd be Kane. Another team comparison, Benson versus Doan. Deployment will reflect Doan, but thinking Benson deserves a minutes boost. I would technically agree with that. I'm going to start having to overwrite players here pretty soon. Going to have to get back to the list pretty soon here as well. Benson's got 2 goals in the last 5. Doan just 1 assist. Just under 15 minutes average time on ice for Benson. And just over 16 minutes for Doan. I just want to check what they're at in the last game. 15:39 in the last game for Benson. What do we have for Doan? 17:01. Okay. 118 shots per 60 for Benson. 152 for Doan. 87th individual expected goals for Benson. 133 individual expected goals for per 60 for Doan. On ice expected goals for per 60, 90 and 84. So basically identical. I think Doan does more of the stuff that we like for fantasy, whereas Benson is typically a bit more of a setup guy. Doan has been much more likely to be power play 1 and line 1 with Tage Thompson. And so I'm leaning his way there. Bangers League with faceoff wins, Pinto or McCann. I mean, if you need the faceoff wins, then you're going Pinto. I think McCann is probably going to get more ice time. Can we look at McDavid's stats? Sure. We can look at Connor McDavid. Only 11 points in the last 5. Pretty atrocious. 12th in shots per 60. Second individual expected goals for per 60. Second on ice expected goals for per 60. 141 point pace. Atrocious from Connor McDavid. Man's got to look himself in the mirror. All right, last one, and then we'll get back to the list. Hey, Nate, how you doing? I'm doing all right, aside from sickness. Thank you. Mantha versus Brazo versus Heineman on Bangers Cats League. On that, if you had to pick one, Heineman versus Tolvanen, who would you rather pick? I see Heineman on power play 1 today, which is appealing. Yeah, Heineman on power play 1 is a different proposition than what he's been for most of the season, even when he was hot. So if he's getting there, then I would be more inclined to lean his way. Mantha has been power play 1, but also Malkin will return at some point here, and you assume that that means Mantha gets demoted. Although Mantha's been pretty good on that power play, so maybe he sticks around and Malkin has to take a back seat on the second unit for a bit. I have trouble believing in Emil Heineman, so I am going to go Tolvanen on that one. I just think Tolvanen, they need him more than the Islanders even need Heineman right now, especially if Horvat back. Mantha versus... It's really Mantha versus Heineman for me. I think Brazo takes a secondary seat to those two still. I think... I mean, it's kind of if you need the hits, then go Heineman. If you need a little bit more scoring, then go Mantha, I think, between those two. All right, back to the list. We go Jack Hughes. The Devils still have not scored well into the third period at this point. Now that I said that, I'm sure they'll pump the Leafs net full. But at this moment, Jack Hughes just 1 goal in his last 3 games, almost 21 minutes average time on ice, 231st in shots per 60, 251 in individual expected goals for per 60, 104 in on ice expected goals for per 60. Have to wonder if he might not still be feeling some discomfort when shooting or doing things like that. Maybe that's a reason why he's not shooting as much. That being said, I guess I could take a quick look at if he's got a bunch of shots in this game. Maybe he's got 20 shots in this game and I'm not paying attention. Only a couple shots so far. Already 19 minutes time on ice. Yeah, I don't think I'm concerned about Hughes. I mentioned before that I think New Jersey has been kind of bad, been very unlucky, and probably just gripping their sticks a bit too tight. So, yeah, that combination of factors I think is holding everybody in New Jersey down, but I do think they will be better. So it might be a little bit of like a buy low maybe on Jack Hughes. Maybe. I don't think anybody's going to realistically sell him super low at this point, but maybe worth kicking tires. I'm not too concerned until this really becomes like a 10-game stretch or something like that where this keeps up. JT Miller obviously hasn't played in a while. I feel like he's a decent buy low, especially if you can afford it. Rangers playoff schedule, pretty good. Really good, actually. So I am pretty okay with the JT Miller buy low, especially if you're sitting pretty in first in your league. Nobody's coming close to you, which obviously all the Apples and Ginos listeners and viewers are. So, yeah, JT Miller, I think, makes a pretty good buy low. He's been up and down this year for sure, even in terms of the underlying metrics. But I think, yeah, you just feel like at some point it has to kind of make sense a little bit more, and they have to kind of come back to the median. I don't know if that will actually happen, but it still feels like the most likely scenario that things kind of even out and JT Miller gets back to some pretty decent scoring, if not like full point per game JT Miller, then at least like 70-point JT Miller in terms of pace. That being said, Does the injury affect him when he gets back? You are taking a risk. So at least be aware that you're taking a risk and don't buy him like at full price. Matt Zuccarello, 4 points in the last 5, almost 18.5 minutes average time on ice, 264 shots per 60, 125. Individual expected goals for per 60, 46th in on ice expected goals for per 60. Been, reprising that role alongside Kaprizov, both on the top line and on the power play. I mean, it's exciting times for anybody in Minnesota in terms of the potential to score points. 12 goals, 66-point pace in terms of his season-long pace at this point. 84% IPP is crazy, but the 10.3% on-ice shooting percentage should go up. So overall, I feel pretty confident in Matt Zuccarello, at least at that 65-ish point pace. I think I probably projected him somewhere in that range at the beginning of the year. And if anything, I might adjust that slightly upwards. Yeah, 64-point pace, I had him at the beginning of the year. If anything, I might adjust that slightly upwards with the advent of Quinn Hughes in Minnesota. Nikolai Ehlers, 3 assists in his last 5 games. I don't believe he got in on the only goal there for Carolina so far tonight. He did not. I'm so sad about Nikolai Ehlers. Why did he have to go to Carolina? And why did it have to turn out this way? Playing on this line with Kotkaniemi and Jackson Blake, while Eric Robinson plays with Aho and Svechnikov, make it make sense. Rod Brind'Amour doing Rod Brind'Amour things, and the underlyings are starting to tail off for Ehlers. It's not a good look. I'm not going to fault anybody who drops him at this point. He's still a tremendously talented offensive player, and he could pop at any time. It's just, is that realistically going to happen right now? If he's getting power play 1 and or line 1, then I'm still holding on kind of regardless, because that should be a very good spot for him to put up points. But if he's not, and the kind of cold streak continues, the inability to score actual goals continues, which has been very puzzling for him this year, then yeah, I'm not going to fault anybody for dropping him at this point, even in some 12-team leagues. So that's where I'm at with Nick Ehlers. All right, quick drink to get me back on track. And we're back. After Nikolai Ehlers, we get Seth Jones, 4 points his last 5. The Canadiens and Panthers are still scoreless with 13-plus minutes left in the third at this point, so nothing new to report there. 25-plus minutes a night, 6th amongst all defensemen, shots per 60 in that time frame. Nice stuff there. 40th individual expected goals for per 60, 24th on ice expected goals for per 60. Getting a ton of work and really just thriving. 13-goal, 50-point pace for Seth Jones. The underlying stuff looks all pretty sustainable. The on-ice shooting percentage might even tick up with Tkachuk back. I'm loving Seth Jones at this point. I think he's sustainable at 50 points and has pretty obvious upside for more with Tkachuk coming back. Fantilli here, 3 assists in his last 5. No goals, over 20 minutes a night, 39 shots per 60, 63rd individual expected goals for per 60, 30th on ice expected goals for per 60. Underlying numbers are pretty hot there. Under a 60% IPP, that should come back up. I think we can expect more from Adam Fantilli. I think a 65-plus point pace rest of season is, I would say, well within the cards for him, especially at this 20-minute deployment. So, I think it's maybe by low season on Adam Fantilli. People are maybe down on Columbus. Zach Werenski's not playing. Send some offers. Timo Meier, no points in the last little bit. Still getting good minutes. Let's see if that's continuing here tonight, because we all know if somebody's taking the heat there in New Jersey from Shellenkeef, it's probably Timo Meier. Yeah, he's only played 11:03 with half the third period left there. That being said, he's been shooting lights out. Had a couple of 7-shot games in a row there. I love Timo Meier. It's just, I don't think he's ever going to get the deployment that we really want for him. They were still running this Stefan Nason on top power play situation, even though it's not working. I like Timo Meyer. I think he's good without power play one. I think he could be great with power play one. 28, what's he on? 27 goal, 57 point pace on the season. I think that could get a little bit better, but I wouldn't expect much more without power play one. Kevin Fiala, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points in his last 5. Just under 18 minutes average time on ice, 289th shots per 60, 227 individual expected goals for per 60, 179 on ice expected goals for per 60. Yeah, it is a tough scene in Los Angeles at the moment. I'm actually curious about this, where they stand in terms of the 5v5 data the last little bit. They are 21st in team expected goals for per 60 at 5v5 in the last little bit, 26th in all strengths. So yeah, it's not been good on the season. It's a little bit better, 20th in all strengths. It's actually worse in terms of the 5v5, 26th. It's just bad. Like, it's a bad system for offense. It's a bad system for a guy like Kevin Fiala to apply his trade. So do I think he should be more of a 60-point guy at least moving forward? Yeah. Do I think he has potential to go to 70? Yeah, but it's going to take Jim Hiller getting fired for him to really make that happen. So what's your likelihood of Jim Hiller getting himself fired here in the next little bit? You know, that might be the metric by which you judge the worth of Kevin Fiala. Kings are in a playoff spot as of right now. So who's going to come unseat them? Are the Kraken or the Mammoth or the Preds or the Blues really going to come? Or the Jets? Like, the Jets are 7 points out of a playoff spot right now. They are not looking great. Are they going to come all the way back? They got to jump a lot of teams to get there. Yeah, they got to make it happen. If they don't, then it's just going to be another wild card spot. Ken Holland and everybody there just going to wipe their hands and say, oh, look, another successful playoff season for us, even though they didn't get any closer to actually winning anything. So that's how I feel about the Kings. I feel like the Kings are potentially the most depressing team in hockey right now. And that's coming from a Leafs fan. So take that for what it's worth. All right, back to the comments. Looks like we got a bunch again. Buy low targets right now for D and forward. So I actually did put together a buy low sell high show that is for patrons only that I'm going to be doing right after this. So a little self plug there. If you go to Patreon, which the link is pretty much everywhere you find Apples and Ginos stuff, on Twitter. I think it's in the description of this video right now. Should be. Usually is. So if you want to join Patreon for one night, and you can get that. Otherwise, I'm going to reserve that for patrons only. Blake usually does some buy low and sell high shows throughout the course of season 2, so you won't be starved for that kind of content, but I am going to reserve that one at the moment. Thoughts on Radish/Hedman's values when Hedman returns? I am of the belief that Radish has done enough here to retain his power play 1 role when Hedman returns, but probably he will take a little bit of a backseat in terms of the even strength minutes. So he'll take something off the top of his point pace, maybe like 5 points off his point pace when Hedman returns. Hedman, I don't think, will be getting, like, if he's not getting power play 1, then he's probably more of like a 45 to 50 point defenseman, I would guess. When he returns, it's also a pretty good chance that because of the injury and the re-aggravation and everything that's gone on there, that they kind of reduce his minutes a little bit as much as they can, as long as they're still winning and they have the ability to do so. I think they will. Right now, they're pretty solidly in a playoff spot, but obviously the Sabres are out of a playoff spot and they're only 3 points back of the Lightning right now, so it can change on at any moment basically right now. So yeah. Keep that all in mind. It's flu season. A lot of sick folks. Take care. Appreciate that. Taylor says, hey man, first time making the live. I have a player for you, Brandon Hagel. We can add Brandon Hagel to the list. Brandon Hagel. Minute 54 for another cough. Pretty good. Brandon Hagel, like, He hasn't been playing, so obviously there's not a lot of recent data on the season. This 45 goal, 77 point pace, not sustainable. Really high IPP, which is something that he has sustained. Obviously, hasn't gotten a lot of power play time. He's been on line 2, so he's had to generate a lot of his own offense, and he's been able to do that. The 18.8% shooting percentage is really high, and that's the part that I think would come down the most. The 77 point pace, I think, is sustainable. It's the 45 goal pace that I think is unsustainable, so he should be more like 35 to 40 goal pace, I would guess. But yeah, 35 to 40 goal, 77 point pace. Brandon Hagel rest of the season, definitely well within the range of outcomes. Nico Hischier would be nice to hear about. He's been a tough watch. He's been a tough watch on a couple of my rosters this year as well. He's got 4 assists in the last 5, 21.5 minutes average time on ice, 51st shots per 60, 46th individual expected goals for per 60, 22nd on ice expected goals for per 60. So the underlines actually look pretty good the last little bit. As I mentioned, I think the Devils are maybe just gripping the sticks a little tight right now, getting a little unlucky, as well as not performing very well. So I think he should be better soon, but I've been saying that about him a lot of times this year. Gensel versus Natchez, who are you picking? Goals 1.5, assists 1, hits 0.1. Yeah, I'm still taking the guy playing alongside Nathan McKinnon. Are the Preds good now? Asking as a Saros owner. They are good right now. Do I think they will be good in another 20 games? Less certain, but more certain than I was before. I think they can be a bubble team. I really do believe they can be a bubble team, but they are paper thin up front, especially at the center position. If O'Reilly went down to injury, I think this team would crumble. So yeah, it's a bit of a tenuous bet long term, but for right now, I think they're playing well. I think they should continue to do. Nate, best gift you received this holidays and best that you gave? Best gift I received. I got some camping stuff. I always love getting camping stuff. That's a big source of relaxation for me. I like to do solo canoe camping, and so anything that helps me do that more often or more effectively, I'm really into. Got some new maps for some new places I'm hoping to check out. If not this year, then some upcoming years. So yeah, that's probably my favorite. Best that I gave. My wife wanted another tattoo, so I gave her a quote-unquote coupon for a new tattoo, and she's pretty jazzed about it, so she's already making plans. Thoughts on Luke Evangelista when Marchie comes back? I think Luke Evangelista, greater sign, Jonathan Marchessault should retain his role pretty much. How does Zibuim look? Painful to hold in the 14-team league so far. Yeah, that is a tough hold. Anybody on Vancouver is probably going to be a tough hold. I think you should probably do yourself a favor and try to consider everybody in Vancouver as more of a streamer than a hold. 14-team league, I understand the impetus to hold him. But yeah, I don't think you have to hold him by any stretch. Because he doesn't give you peripherals, when the cold streaks come, it's especially hard. So, yeah, the underlying stats are not great. I didn't expect they would be there in Vancouver. You don't have to hold him, even in a 14-team. Great channel, Nate. Appreciate you stopping by. What about Velarde and the Winnipeg Jets? Are they going to improve? The Jets are pretty puzzling to me overall. Velarde's been pretty good. No goals in the last 5, but 3 assists over 20 minutes. 225th shots per 60, 172 individual expected goals for per 60, 115 on ice expected goals for per 60, 73-point pace. Really efficient, which could come down a little bit. But yeah, last little bit, what do we have for Winnipeg? Dead last in 5v5 expected goals for. Dead last in all strengths expected goals for. That's not going to get it done on the season. 30th in all strengths and 30th in 5v5. So they're just not generating anything, especially outside of the top line. Their bottom 9 is about as bad as any team in the league right now. That's really saying something. Yeah, I'm pretty worried about the Jets. Like, Connor Hellbuck doesn't score goals, so they're going to have to figure out some way to make that happen. Did I talk about Zaka already? I did not. We can throw Zaka on the list. Get a quick look in. 2 points in the last 5, over 18 minutes, average time on ice still. 295 shots per 60, 150 individual expected goals for per 60, 129 on ice expected goals for per 60. Last game was playing with Arvidsson and Middlestat, still on top power play. I just think probably Zaka and the Bruins in general were overperforming, and so we're getting a bit of a fallback to earth. And if Pastrnak doesn't lift the entire team out of mediocrity, then they will sink back there. So you're putting a lot of weight on Pastrnak there, especially on the power play, which is Zaka's only exposure to him currently. I don't view Zaka as anything more than a reasonable streamer in a 12-team league. Has your projection for EP40 changed at all? Also interested in Suzuki. EP40, probably 65-point pace rest of season. Losing Hughes hurts, no question about it. Yeah, maybe 65-point pace rest of season. Suzuki, I think, is a point per game plus guy, 80 to 85 points every single season, probably for the next decade. Holloway worth holding for week 23, can probably hold the lead and still eat some losses. Depends, I guess. I assume that you're holding him on IR currently and you're more worried about when he comes back. If that's the case, yeah, I think so. I think he was playing better right before the injury, which was really tough to see him go down at that exact moment when I think he might have been primed for a bit of a pop-off. So yeah, I think he should be better, but I'm not like convinced of it. It would still be a moment by moment when he's back. Thanks for all this. Best around. Appreciate you. Thanks, Nate. Dropping Zeev. Any of Zadorov, Lindell, Forsling, Sherratt, Nemec, Orlov kept your eye? Not particularly. Nemec would be the most interesting when he returns. What about Elias Lindholm versus Josh Norris? Hold Lindholm. I think I would prefer Josh Norris when healthy. I guess the question is, do you have good enough options? Like, I guess you can just pick Lindholm back up if nobody else does. If you're dropping Lindholm to get Norris. But if you're asking just who I would rather have, assuming health for both, I would rather have Norris. I think that power play situation is better. He's a bigger portion of that power play than Lindholm is in Boston. And Norris is going to play with either Tuck or Thompson at even strength 95% of the rest of his minutes for the rest of the season. So I think it's a better situation for Norris overall. Boston has been trying Pastrnak with Kuznetsov and all these other guys. So if Lindholm isn't continually getting Pastrnak exposure, I would expect that he would slow down. All right, last few players, and I'm going to get out of here. Jackson Blake, 3 goals in his last 5 games. Not getting anything in this game against the Penguins here. They're getting run over by the Penguins, which everybody saw coming. It is a back-to-back for the Hurricanes, so I guess we can cut them some slack. Over 18 minutes average time on ice with Seth Jarvis out. Jackson Blake has been a big-time beneficiary in power play time, getting even some top-line time as well. Here and there. 192nd shots per 60, 118 individual expected goals for per 60, 141 on ice expected goals for per 60 on the season, 26 goal, 52-point pace. And it looks relatively sustainable to me. 9.1% on ice shooting percentage is low, but the 75% IPP is high. I think, yeah, 25 goal, 50-point pace, Jackson Blake looking pretty sustainable to me at the moment, with a little bit more upside, getting a little bit more ice time with Seth Jarvis out at the moment. Jeremy McCann doing stuff again, scored a goal last night. I want to double check what the ice time looked like there, because that obviously makes a big difference. Yeah, so 13:27 in the first game back, 16:05 in the second game back here, and he might get closer to the Tolvanen treatment as he works his way back. So that would obviously be exciting for McCann, who I think is the most naturally talented goal scorer on that Seattle Kraken roster. That being said, he's not on the top power play right now. Tolvanen maybe occupying that role as a bit of a shooter. I don't know what Chandler Stevenson or Matty Beniers bring to that power play that Jerry McCann couldn't bring plus something. But, yeah, realistically, you have to play where you're at. Jerry McCann playing with Shane Wright and Berkeley Catton, it's fine, but it's not ideal. I want to see him with Eberle. I want to see him playing with a guy who can get him the puck in good spots. It's a really small sample size, so I'm not going to read too much into the underlying stats there. But on the season, he ranks second in individual expected goals for per 60. Yeah, it's only a 13-game sample, but the sample is good. The sample that we do have of Jerry McCann is that he is hashtag good at hockey. I'm inclined to continue to believe that. Just want to see the ice time continue to increase and him to be relied on a bit more moving forward. Josh Norris is on the list here, so he's got 2 goals, 3 points in the last 5, 16.5 minutes average time on ice, a little bit down from where he was previously, but I think that is likely to come back up as Buffalo continues to roll, really. So yeah, I expect that to come back up moving forward. 339 shots per 60, 319 individual expected goals for per 60 is pretty puzzling because he is a bit more of a shooter than that. 89th, though, in on-ice expected goals for per 60 is solid. On the season, he has undoubtedly run quite hot to get to this 34-goal, 82-point pace. I mean, he's only played 12 games, so yeah, 12 points in 12 games. But yeah, he's been really good. So it's not like that insane. It is concerning to me that the shots are just haven't really been there so far. I think they'll come back a little bit, and we should get a little bit more, but I think we've all seen the talent of Josh Norris when healthy. It's just on him to stay healthy at this point. And lastly here, Steven Stamkos. 5 goals, 8 points in his last 5, just over 17 minutes. Average time on ice, 53rd shots per 60, 51st. Individual expected goals for per 60. And 21st in on-ice expected goals for per 60, playing with O'Reilly and Forsberg, even strength on the top power play. It looks good for Stamkos at the moment. The minutes aren't as high as you might like, but he's feeling it right now, obviously. They found something that's working for him. It's really hard to project a guy who has been so bad for so long and is suddenly on a major hot streak, because it's really easy to go to one of the two extremes, to either say, no, this is just a mirage, everything before is the real Steven Stamkos, or to be like, finally he's figured it out, this is the real Steven Stamkos. The truth is usually somewhere in between. It's not sexy or exciting to say on a podcast or in a YouTube video, but the truth is somewhere in between 99, or maybe not 99 times, but maybe like 90% of the time. So yeah, I think like a 35 goal, 55 to 60 point pace is well within his potential range of outcomes rest of season. I'd like to see it continue for a little bit longer here. If you have Stamkos, I think you're probably just going to want to hold him unless it's kind of a clown league where you can find guys who are getting hot all the time. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I like Stamkos at the moment, but I'm fully prepared for it to change a fair bit over the next 5 games or the next 10 games. All right, two more comments here, and then I'm going to close it out. Nurse versus Brandt Clark. Who are you choosing? Goals 6.5, assists 4.5, power play points 1, shorthand points 1, shots on goal 0.7, hits 0.7, blocks 1. If Jim Hiller were fired tomorrow, I'd take Brandt Clark. Because he's probably not going to be, I'll take Darnell Nurse. If I'm not too late, did we ever cover Coronado? You are the last question to be taken. Coronado, 1 goal in his last 5, 15 minutes average time on ice, 357 shots per 60, 358 individual expected goals for per 60, 314 on ice expected goals for per 60. Has just fallen off a cliff there. Back to playing on that no offense line with Mikael Backlund and Blake Coleman. Yeah, I still think this is a guy who has a lot of potential, but he's also been very inconsistent and is now not in a place to succeed and not even on the top power play unit. So, yeah, I think at this moment in time, Matt Coronado is a pretty clear drop in even like 14 team leagues. And yeah, go find somebody else. Keep an eye on Coronado. I think he could get very hot again. I think he's very talented and fully capable of doing that. It's just right now not worth having on your roster. All right. I think we did it. We made it to the end. Thanks, everybody. To the patrons, I will be there shortly. I will post a link again in the patrons only channel. I'll see you there. For everybody else, thanks for joining the stream here. Thanks for listening to this after the fact, if that's what you're doing. Appreciate all of you, but that is going to be all that I've got for this episode. Hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard and saw today came from Natural Stat Trick and 18 Skaters. Many thanks to Matt Creamer for supplying the music for the podcast. That's it, folks. Much love.